If people really want to know what has set me apart in my career,
we came up against some gamesmanship. It was very unsettling.
What do people need to know about supporting their kids in sport rather than pushing? I felt lighter in the start gate because I could feel that every single one of you were just there with me. I don't know if you realize this, but they're looking at us like, who are you two?
Why does that work?
I just want to thank STIFEL for all of your support. This year we saw that in so many tangible ways, not only with US ski and snowboard racking up 17 Olympic medals, but also with consistently strong performances throughout the entire season on the World Cup circuit. In particular, the STIFEL US Alpine Ski Team women won the overall Nations Cup for the first time in 44 years and finished first in both the slalom and the giant slalom standings. 16 women scored points during the season with 11 victories and 27 podiums. I cannot even begin to express how significant this achievement is and how impressive the depth of our program is. STIFEL is certainly an enormous reason for that success. So thank you, STIFEL, where success meets success.
So, this is the first episode that we're recording after the Olympics, which is really exciting. It's been busy, so thank you all for sticking with us and being patient and coming back to listen, because this episode has been a long time coming. And one of the most heavily requested, probably the most heavily requested, and the one that I've been the most excited about since starting the podcast. Today, I'm sitting down with somebody who has shaped not only my career, but my life in every way possible. This is the winningest alpine ski coach of all time. She's a nurse for life. She was my homeschooling teacher. She's my advisor. She's my best friend and my mom, Eileen Shiffrin. So for those of you who may not know, maybe if there's anybody new here, hi, welcome to What's the Point? For those of you who may not know, Eileen, my mom, she's been by my side for really every single step of my journey. She's one of my coaches on the mountain. She's one of my ski coaches, and she has been. She taught me how to ski when I was 3, and she's continuing to teach me how to ski at 31 years old. And honestly, there have been so many moments along this journey, along the way, that I'm not really sure I would have stayed in the sport without her. So, Mom, I am so happy that we're finally doing this. And I know it's a little bit nerve-wracking because there's lights and cameras everywhere, but we're going to chill into this. Thank you so much for doing this with me. Welcome to What's the Point?
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Take a swig of wine. We both can.
Cheers.
We're cheers. We're trying to relax. So first things first, the Faster.Always rapid fire presented by Atomic. GS, slalom, super G, or free skiing?
Free skiing.
Free skiing? Okay. I mean, that's great. Powder or groomer?
Powder.
It's not even hesitation. What's your favorite drill?
The Skating drill.
We might have to explain that later, but this is rapid fire.
Yeah.
What's your favorite model of Atomics?
The blue one.
The blue ones are, I think, the Atomic Redster X5. You heard it here first, folks. All-time favorite song?
The Cowsills song. It's a really old song. The Rain, the Park, and Other Things.
We're going to have to put that on later.
It's a great song.
Oh.
One of my favorites.
What has been your favorite age so far? Kind of a weird way to put that, but favorite time period of life.
Of my life? Oh,
yeah. Or
okay.
Whatever you think. Just
Yeah, okay. I would say around the time when you and Taylor were about 3 and 5 years old, I think. That was such a fun time for our whole family.
Yeah. I'm so glad that I get to be part of some of your favorite memories.
Oh, yeah.
If you were to write a book, what would it be about?
I have thought about several different things I would write about, but I feel like if I want to sell any copies, it's going to have to involve you in my coaching and our journey together.
So we write a book together.
Maybe we'll write a book together. Yeah.
Stand by, folks. Is there a motto that you live by, like a mantra?
Let's see. Well, in our particular situation, I would say it takes a village.
It indeed, it does take a village. So true. What accomplishment are you the most proud of?
Okay, so I'm the most proud of you and Taylor, how you guys have turned out, where you have ended up, who you are as people. That's, I would say, Dad's and my biggest accomplishment.
That's so sweet. Oh, I love you. Oh my gosh, you're so far away from me right now. I want to be like closer to you. Oh, I love you.
Hello.
So I really can't wait to get into this conversation, Mom. But first, I do want to share a quick message to our favorite youth outreach program. I know firsthand that no athlete gets here alone. Champions don't rise without support, coaches and teammates, and a whole community behind them. That's why I'm so proud to support Share Winter Foundation. They're giving thousands of kids the chance to click into skis or strap on a snowboard for the first time ever. For these kids, it's not about medals. It's about confidence and belonging and a joy for being in the snow. Every athlete has people in their corner, and every kid should too. Learn more at sharewinterfoundation.org/MickGives. So, for starters, I'd love to just start kind of icebreaker. Not that we need it, but like your story and your upbringing. All the stories that you've told me about your life and how you grew up and the things that you did and spending time with your family and brothers and sisters. How do you remember or think about the environment that you grew up in? I feel like you've mentioned so much about how active you were and, you know, the need to move and kind of put your energy places. How do you kind of think about that?
Well, I grew up in a amazing neighborhood in the Berkshires in Massachusetts. I grew up in a little Cape Cod home on an acre of property that Papa kept mowed all the time, And I did, when I was growing up, I really felt like I was someone that needed to be outside and moving all the time. And since we had a great property for that, it was awesome. I ended up playing sports constantly with Uncle PJ. We had a neighborhood full of kids and mostly boys, and they were older than I was. I was usually the youngest one there and usually the only female outside playing, and we played soccer, baseball, football, you name it. We had enough land to support just about any kind of sport, and we had a lot of kids to be able to do it. So I was lucky. I got invited. PJ would drag me along with him, and I had to be moving. I was riding my bike, popping wheelies and all over the place and climbing trees and singing at the top of the tree and doing gymnastics in the yard all over the place. I would walk around the neighborhood on my hands. I don't know. I thought I was Pippi Longstocking. I loved Pippi Longstocking, and I really felt like I was her. So,
yeah. Well, I picture you just out there with PJ and all of your friends and like, I don't even know, just like the Sandlot, but in your own backyard.
Yeah.
That's
what it was like. We would play Steal the Flag and hide and seek and you name it. It was constant. It was a great place to grow up.
So you mentioned that you were often the only girl playing any sports with a whole band of boys. How did that, I mean, did you think about that? Did it shape you? Did it affect you?
Well, first of all, my sister Annie, who was my older, she was 4 years older than I was, so she was kind of off doing her own things, but sometimes she would join too. And Carolyn was younger, so she was like too young to be out there. So that's why it ended up kind of by default that I did it with PJ. But yeah, I mean, I felt like at the time, I just didn't realize that it was sort of exceptional for me to be that age and trying to keep up with the boys. And, we would be playing baseball out there, and I sometimes could be the pitcher. I would be up to bat and hit the ball like off into the trees.
Home run.
Yeah, home run. And I really felt like I could keep up with the boys. It was not even like it. I just was always trying to keep up with them. It didn't occur to me that I was a female. I just wanted to be faster, stronger, or as fast and as strong and, as powerful. And yeah.
Do you feel like Nana and Papa, I'm just thinking about how it relates to my life and my own career. And I feel like the way you and Dad raised me and Taylor really was the sort of gender part of a title just didn't really exist. And I, I'm Mikaela Shiffrin. I'm a ski racer.
Yeah.
Or I'm playing soccer, or I like to play piano, or whatever. I study hard. It was just these things that I do, or
it wasn't gender related.
It wasn't
gender dependent. And by the way, you also grew up playing with Taylor and his friends, and your two best friends were boys, and you skied mostly in groups with boys. When you trained, even at Burke, there were a couple of girls, and you trained with the boys.
Yeah.
So it kind of did carry over. It was, to me, it was just normal. Like, do it with the boys.
Like, you just do what you do at the best of your ability.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was cool when that t-shirt came out, ski like a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. And some of the boys were wearing it, which is kind of funny.
Totally. Well, I feel like it's important this day and age that we do get to a point where we sort of take the
stigma, or not stigma.
Yeah, well, we take the label of a gender or however you associate, we sort of start to take that out of it. I feel like it's going to be quite a while, because first you have to talk about women or anybody, like any kind of minority group, anybody who might be doing incredible things in life and business and sport, in politics. You have to talk about that before you get to not talk about it, kind of. I imagine it'll take some time before we can strip the gender away from it. But I also think the way you and Dad raised me was like,
you can do anything.
You can do what you can do anything.
Yeah. Doesn't matter what your gender is. Yeah.
And I was wondering, I guess, how you felt that Nana and Papa instilled those kind of values in you. Or was it just that you were doing all of these things and playing the sports and you didn't really see any unique thing about it, kind of?
Yeah, I didn't see it as unique. I just almost felt like it was just empowering. It probably had more to do with my size and my age. When I got to high school was the first time I started realizing, oh, maybe there is a difference, because I was in our high school was 7th through 12th grade, and I decided to go out for the track team. Well, there was only a men's track team. There was no women's track team. It was before Title IX had empowered women's sports, and it was right around that time. But I ended up going out for the men's track team. So I was trying to race and train with and against the 16-year-old guys, high school guys, the 16 and 17-year-olds.
And
I was
they're
like,
developing.
Yeah,
They're
well, they
strong
were
and fast.
full-grown men,
Yeah.
and I was, pretty small for being a female. Actually, I mean, not small, but I was just young, and I
My
just kept
understanding is
at
you were
it.
pretty petite.
Yeah, I had 0% body fat, but I loved to run, and I was pretty fast runner, and I was convinced I was going to be one of the fastest runners in the high school, even in 7th grade, against the men, because in elementary school, I had been, one of the fastest runners. So it took weeks before the coach finally said, Eileen, isn't this a little too much for you? Because I was exhausted. I was absolutely exhausted. That's when I started realizing that, there is a difference.
Was there any other girl who was trying?
No, I was the only one.
And
I was
coach,
the only female.
They were all just
letting me do it. They figured I'd burn out, I'm pretty sure. And I did. I was so tired. And they didn't have a women's track team. After that, not too long after that, they started a women's track team. So, but until that point, I was so bummed out because it was a spring sport and I wanted to do sports year round. But anyway, it was kind of funny, no, I didn't think that there was a difference or should have been a difference until that moment in time when I was like, wow, I can't keep up with these guys.
We've talked about this, that there is a biological difference. And that is okay.
Eventually it comes into play.
Yes.
It doesn't until you get to about puberty, but up until that time, it's pretty even playing field. But whether you like it or not, eventually it does come into play,
Well, and that, flash forward to where we are now. When people say that, okay, you can say that I'm the winningest alpine ski racer of all time. Male or female, you don't need the distinction. Yes, okay, that makes sense on paper. But I feel like it's okay to say the best female slalom ski racer of all time.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, I haven't been racing with the men. And I don't have that biological strength. And maybe if I did, then the work that I've done would have put me in a good spot. But that's not the comparison we're talking about.
No.
And it's okay to have that distinction in areas of life where it's applicable.
Right.
We've talked about that a lot.
Right.
It's not offensive.
No, it's not offensive. It shouldn't be. And it's reality.
Yeah.
So, comes into play.
So, flashback again. You have also always talked about times growing up, standing up to bullies. You have this, you tell this story all the time, and I would love for you to tell it because I think it's hilarious. When, I don't know if you really want to use names. I guess we don't have their approval to use names, but there was one particular big bully in school, and you were having a snowball fight. What was happening? And then the little...
Yeah, I don't know if I should. It was a, how can I put it? It was a minority, kind of a racial slur that was happening. And I was in, I think, probably 4th or 5th grade. And the slur was being made by a guy who was big for his age, very big for his age, much bigger than I was, or than my little friend who was the minority, a boy.
Yeah.
And I was so mad. He was calling him a derogatory name. Yeah. And I got so mad, and I just told him just to stop, and called him a big oaf.
You big oaf.
Big dumb oaf. And which was very insulting to him and hurt his feelings. So he started chasing me. I started running. I was afraid he was going to
clobber you?
Clobber me, yeah. And I was running as fast as I could to get away from him. And at one point I was thinking, oh my God,
I'm going to die.
I'm going to die. I'm about half his size. And so I just stopped really suddenly and crouched down, and he went tumbling over me. Everyone started laughing, and he started crying. And then I felt bad about that, but I just said,
you a lesson.
yeah, I just said, stop picking on kids who are smaller
than you
and vulnerable, just stop.
Just stop
That's
thinking
what
that
you
people
get.
are less than.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that would, and that kind of thing, I felt like someone had to stand up for all throughout elementary school and high school. I did feel empowered because I felt like, because of, my activities and my sports and everything I did, I felt physically like I could defend those kids who were outliers or just different, and who I felt like I could stand up. I didn't need to do it physically usually, but I felt confident that I could stand up and say, stop.
Yeah.
Stop doing that. What are you doing that for? And the reason I felt that way was because I felt like I could run away from them or physically, stand up for
down and let them tumble over you.
Or even, as a female and yeah, not a big girl, but I felt like I was physically capable of protecting myself and others who needed it. So it was a good way to be. Yeah.
I would love to touch on your imagination. I think that all of these things are, all of these kind of pieces of your personality. You have been such a caretaker, and we'll touch on that more. But, the way that your creativity and your imagination is something that really stands out to me as it's just something that has lit my life up brilliantly and has truly been a key piece in my success in the sport as well. There's some stories you talk about wrapping up little gifts and things, and I wonder if you could share that, because it stands out in my mind.
Yeah. Well, so even though we had a neighborhood full of kids, I spent a lot of time alone also. When I think back on it, I feel like I spent just a ton of time alone, and I would be constantly doing some quirky little thing. But if it wasn't drawing or music or singing from the top of a tree or...
hold on. Like, people need to understand what you mean by singing. Like, she actually means she climbed the tree and you sang...
If I could talk to the animals.
Dr. Doolittle.
Dr. Doolittle.
From the treetops. So literally singing from the top of the tree.
I did that until my neighbor came out and told me, he said, Shirley Temple, could you keep it down just a little bit? And I was so mad. First of all, I was embarrassed that he heard me. Oh. Secondly, I had curly hair and I did not like it. And I didn't like being called Shirley Temple because she had curly hair. So,
oh my gosh.
But anyway, so I was always doing funny little things like that. But then when I was very young, I didn't realize that Christmas only came around once a year, and it was in the wintertime. So I was thinking that I roamed around the house and I would find little discarded items like empty spools of thread or broken pencils or, whatever, something like that, maybe a paper clip or something. And I would wrap it up. If I could find wrapping paper, I'd wrap it up in wrapping paper or else paper towel and find some string and, just decorate it like a Christmas present. And then I brought it out into our backyard and put it under the huge pine tree out there because it kind of looked like a Christmas tree. And I would do it, bring it out in the morning and then come back in the early evening to see if maybe it had turned into a real present of some sort. I don't know. I believed in magic. And I also thought that I believed in Santa, and I thought maybe he'd, swing by and turned it into
I
a
know
real.
it's July, but do you think you could come by Lanesboro, Massachusetts for a
And
minute?
just do something with this stuff that I'm putting out here.
See,
But,
I think this is kind of a little bit of the inspiration for why I thought that I could grow up to be a rainbow horse. I think there's something beautiful and special to celebrate about people in the world who have just the imagination, the creativity, just like find something to do and go outside and find little trinkets around the house and wrap them up and give yourself the excitement and the imagination to believe they might change into something. And even if they don't, it's like, I don't know, this day and age, we've got the social media and we have everything that's giving us all this, this information and this like impulse of a little bit of addiction, really. And I think there's people in this world who have that kind of imagination and creativity that you have. And I don't know why. I just love it. I have this picture of the movies or the books that you read that are like mandatory readings in school growing up, and it's like, talking about creativity and imagination, and you're learning about these characters, and there's a point to it. There's a point to these characters and why that's highlighted. Something that these people are, some values that they're instilling and that we want our youth to know and understand and learn and experience themselves. And when I hear about stories of you growing up, I see that in these, in the all-time greatest books that we've read ever in life, in school, that every single class and every single school needs to read. That's like, these are these iconic characters that show courage and strength and creativity and values, standing up to the bullies and then go and wrap present for yourself.
I definitely had a creative side. I was like always making stuff and making dolls out of paper mache and clothes for my dolls constantly. And
well, speaking of making clothes, so you made your own tennis outfits, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about how you got into tennis?
Yeah. Well, Papa decided that he wanted us to be exposed to tennis. So the first thing he did is I remember it as him bringing all four of us out to the backyard, and Nana was in the kitchen making dinner, and she already knew the rules of tennis, but Papa brought us all out there and lined us up and stood in front of us and explained all the rules of tennis to us. I don't know how long it took, but it was a long time. But also, I couldn't stand to stand still. So a minute seemed like an hour. Anyway, he explained all of the rules and what we were allowed to do and not allowed to do when we went onto the court, and don't run into the neighbor's court, and make sure that you return their balls the minute they come on our court, but don't run onto their court to get the ball, and how to score, just all the rules of the game before we were ever allowed to swing our racket. We were not allowed to, we had to, just like hold our racket in our hand and not even swing it.
Boy.
So it's just how Papa was. He was a World War II vet. He was an engineer. He was very particular about everything and his approach to learning and teaching things. So, but finally, eventually we did get to go out onto the court and play, and I absolutely fell in love with the sport immediately. So, yeah.
So Papa introduced you to tennis.
Yep.
Kind of originally.
Mm-hmm.
And he also introduced you to skiing, right? How did you guys get into skiing?
Papa loved skiing. I'm not sure why, but I do know that there was a trail called the Thunderbolt Trail on Mount Greylock Mountain, which is a few miles down the road from where we grew up. And it's a pretty famous ski trail. There were some famous races that were held there. And I think that maybe what got Papa into skiing?
I mean, it's pretty iconic. It's actually kind of an iconic place.
Yeah, it's a historic,
especially
really a
in East
historic.
Coast.
Yeah, I think it's what opened in the 1930s, the late 1930s, and it's still open.
Yeah.
It was maintained by members who volunteered their time. Uncle PJ still works there, drives the snowcat and fixes it. It's all volunteer. When we were growing up, in the summer, in the fall, we would go out there as families and we would use sickles and like the most rudimentary tools to knock down the weeds on the trails and get the trails in shape. Yeah, we did it by hand. But we had so much fun, and we had lace-up leather boots. I had wooden skis with bear trap bindings, which you wouldn't know what that is, but
I've seen them on the wall.
Yeah, it's a binding where you actually like have to put this lever down to close it on the front of it, and
it's like a sneaker.
Well, it's like a spring that you step into it with your ski boot on, and then you lower this lever, and the edges were screwed into the wood, screws with little tiny screws. So eventually, we graduated to another local ski area, a bigger one called Burke Mountain, which had several chairlifts, and Nana worked in the nursery there in order to help pay for our ski passes, and that's where it was also very close to our home, and it was actually on our bus route home from high school, so we got to ski just about every day of the winter. Yeah.
And you loved it.
We loved it. It was very social. I just bombed around with PJ and his friends, the same guys that we were playing soccer with, and we'd ski every day. We hit every jump on the hill and the bump runs, and it was bulletproof ice because it was Massachusetts and freezing rain all the time. So, but it was a lot of fun. And I learned how to ski just from following and watching and, copying.
What do you think, Papa obviously had a huge impact in a lot of different ways. He helped get you into a lot of this. Really, skiing and tennis primarily are two of the sports that have seemed to be the biggest part of your life. Obviously, skiing,
and field hockey was soccer and field hockey. But
so, where was Nana at during all this time? How was she fitting in? How did she impact your life? And I mean, we all in our family, we think of Nana as the angel. She, this beacon of light, and she's had an enormous impact on my life. Just wondering, who was Nana for you?
So Nana was just a rock. The whole time we were growing up, looking back on it, she was amazing. I don't know how she did it. She had 4 kids and a husband to cook and clean and buy groceries for and do all the laundry. And this was back before they had disposable diapers, and they had cloth diapers, and I don't know how that all went, but she was so supportive of all of these programs, of the tennis. She ran the tennis program that we ended up belonging to, and she loved tennis, and she would play whenever she could, but most of the time she was running the program and running the tournaments, and she didn't really get out and play that much, but she loved it when she did. And then she, as far as skiing, oh my God, she would be the one that would get us all dressed up and ready for the hill and make our lunches so that there wasn't a cafeteria at Mount Greylock Ski Club. So she would make Dagwood Bumstead sandwiches, which is a combination of like different meats, and it kind of like an Italian sub, only it was a sandwich. And she would make it all one for each of us, and all other things in the lunch basket. every single weekend, every Saturday and Sunday, because it was only open on Saturdays and Sundays. And then every Saturday we would go home and have hot dogs and beans, and every Sunday we would go home and somehow, I don't know, she magically produced a roast, a pot roast or some sort of a roast. I don't know how she did it. Or spaghetti and meatballs. I don't know. We just, we'd be up there all day long and we'd go home. We'd be all starving and cold, and she would be too, but somehow she managed to get a dinner on, in a short period of time and keep the house clean and immaculate and just create this environment that was unbelievable for us. And, Nana was a really exceptional person. She created an environment of an atmosphere of just loving kindness. She was such a spiritual person without being pushy about it.
Yeah.
And just, such a beautiful soul. And she just created our love for the Berkshires, Lanesboro, and that home in particular that was so impactful, I think, for all of us, that it just is the reason that we just kept going back again and again and again. Everybody loved going there.
Yeah. This kind of everlasting passion for being there and being home. And it has, to the point that I feel that the Berkshires are part of my home.
Right.
And I didn't grow up there. We spent a lot of time
you
there.
You loved seeing Nana. You loved being Nana.
Our cousins, Annie, PJ, Carolyn, their kids, I feel that we all feel that way, about Nana Polly and, everything that was, there's a lasting impact there.
Yeah.
I feel like all your relationship with Nana and you and your siblings, when I think about your and my relationship, I can see sort of speckles of that in how you talk about all of your relationship with Nana. And maybe we even can take it one step further because, you've really been, obviously my mom, you've been my teacher at times. You've homeschooled me multiple different points in my life, including getting me through junior and senior year of high school while I was racing World Cup. My ski coach, my best friend. Can you talk a little bit about how, I guess we're shifting gears maybe a bit, how you have felt our relationship sort of evolving or learning and growing over the years, balancing the mother-daughter, teacher-student, coach-athlete, and best friend relationship?
Well, so initially we've always been close.
Yeah.
And Dad and I absolutely loved spending our time with you guys. We wanted you to have your own friends and do your own things, but we loved doing stuff with you. We had so much fun. We, moved to New Hampshire and set up that basement that was like one giant arcade gymnasium.
Yeah, all of those fun things. Oh my gosh.
We would have your friends come over and play soccer down there and just we had fun. And it was like Dad and I were like big kids and wanted to do stuff with you guys. So that was one thing. And as you got older, we started off with, I was working with you as you were 6 years old or something, and you and a group of 6 other kids, mostly boys, of course, and Dan Lever was helping me keep the kids from killing themselves in the woods or whatever. And
we were just ripping around the mountain.
Just ripping around the mountain and having fun and going in the terrain park and the moguls and just really having fun together. And that continued. We moved to New Hampshire when you were 8, I guess.
7 or 8,
seven and a half.
Yeah.
And then we, got involved in the skiing there and the programs there. And we turned, like I said, we turned that house into the basement into a really fun place to be. And we just did a lot of things together. We loved our time together. Then the time came when middle school, when Taylor was looking at going to Burke Mountain Academy, and we decided that maybe it would be a good thing for you because you were already skiing really very well. And you and Taylor were really close, and it was only not even an hour from our house. So we decided that we would move up there and get a place up there. You and I would, and you could, ski in the program, and I would homeschool you. So we took the curriculum from Lime Elementary School with us, and we supplemented it with another full-on middle school
program, whole curriculum.
Yeah, a whole curriculum to make sure we had our bases covered. And that whole process of doing the homeschooling it was really bonding. Yeah. We loved it. We both loved it.
Oh my gosh, we had so much fun.
We had so much fun, and
I was just thinking about Johnny Tremaine, one of the books.
Yeah. And the grammar diagrams that we would do, making grammar so much fun. It became like a game. And we would, remember in the evenings, we would go
French verbs, conjugating verbs.
Conjugating the verbs
what
on
were
the
you
chairlift.
In the evening?
And remember, we would take time every evening before dinner to do a hike up the Pommel lift.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was so beautiful that with like the sun would be going down, and we would just go for it. It was
trail.
It was so quiet, and you didn't mind. You liked it. You liked doing it. You would be skiing during the day, and then we'd fit the schoolwork in somehow. It was unconventional, but it didn't matter. We got it all done. You'd ski in the morning, a couple hours, then take a nap, and then, we would get down to the schoolwork when you were awake and ready to do it.
Yeah.
And then we go for that walk. That was sort of like our dry land.
Yeah.
And because you were too young to actually be in the Burke program.
Yeah, I think I was 12 probably.
Yeah. So those were really fun, special times. And we did that all the way through.
Well, and we would look at ski video together.
Yep.
So I was working with Kirk Dwyer as my coach. But we would spend so much time watching Winning World Cup runs.
Yeah.
And whatever we could find, we were watching Jean-Baptiste Grange.
Yeah.
This was some of those critical years.
Yeah.
Watching him absolutely annihilate the Levy slalom course.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all of these things.
Yeah, we figured out like the little difference in his skiing that he was doing that nobody else was doing. And so that was just, and then, making our way through all the way through high school.
Yeah.
With the various programs and making school kind of fun. And, it was very much a bonding. It wasn't like I was browbeating you. I wasn't. It was just allowing you to do something you love to do.
Yeah.
But also compliant with the law.
You do need to go to school.
With school regulations, So,
but we would learn this all together. And the thing is, like, when you talk about school and homeschooling, and one of the most important things I think in school is that you have somebody to learn with. And it can be so hard to do it entirely on your own. I found it really hard to really truly focus and do my schoolwork on my own. But with a study partner, with a buddy, it became so fun and a lot easier. And I've always loved to learn.
Yeah.
And so doing these projects with you, when you started running my curriculum in those, 6th, 7th grade years. And then in junior, senior year, I had the curriculum kind of from Burke, and then we had to supplement it a little bit with other schooling, like homeschooling systems. But at that point in time, it was like, all right, we just need to do this unit. You don't need to run the curriculum, but I need a study buddy.
Yeah.
And you need to sort of help me see it through. So then you were doing my chemistry course with me.
Yeah.
Like you were coming up with the hydronyl and hydroxyl.
Yeah. Luckily, I had done it once and in, college and high school. And so for me, it was a refresher course.
I don't remember it now. It was a refresher course in all of high school. I just did a high school refresher course just for fun, just because I like spending time with you and, but it
was cool because there were other things available, other resources that we discovered.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that I enjoyed doing while you were busy doing something else or on the hill or whatever. I loved researching the resources that were available, Khan Academy, Brainstorm, whatever, Brightstorm.
And like YouTube was starting to become a place where you could really find some pretty
supplement
educational...
and enrichment stuff and supplemental ways of learning, different ways of learning. And that's like always been my whole thing is if you don't learn one way, like by just looking at this textbook, let's find a different way of learning it.
Yeah.
So there's got to be, like, you could come at it from a completely different angle, opposite end of the spectrum, and learn it twice as fast, depending on your, So
I want to talk more about that, the like learning styles and how you have grown to coach. And we're going to get into that because it's so interesting how this is the imagination and the creativity and how you see things and how you learn things. And maybe it's not conscious, but like you're able to break things down in a way, whether it was a tough challenge in chemistry or a powerful forehand and how that might translate into a strong giant slalom turn. We're going to get into that. But I think as far as our relationship goes, people along the way have, I think, assumed that you and Dad pushed me. Mm-hmm. And I would like to honestly
dispel that.
I would like to dispel that theory. I felt so much motivation came intrinsically, and you and Dad really provided tools and opportunity. Mm-hmm. And I'm very privileged in that sense that we had enough to actually pursue the opportunity. But the thought about creating a champion is interesting to me. A lot of people talk about this, and parents will ask me, how can I support my kids? I think they probably ask you that.
Yeah.
So what do you think that is something important that parents need to know about supporting their kids versus pushing? Because I never felt like you or Dad pushed me in any sense, but I felt like you were so supportive.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Dad and I had very different parenting styles and sort of teaching styles. That Dad was very laid back. He was, really into trial and error and letting you guys explore and learn and grow on your own, guided discovery kind of thing. And I was quite a bit more regimental about everything you did, learning everything, trying to cut to the chase. I didn't really agree that it was... I didn't really want you to learn by failure. I wanted you to learn by having success, and pretty much like just let's go that route.
Tell them how to not fail.
Yeah, let's not talk about failing.
Tell them how to do it right.
Yeah, exactly. But and Dad and I didn't have any idea. It was not premeditated on my part, that's for sure. It may have been on Dad. Dad may have been thinking in the back of his mind, wow, Mikaela is really good, and this is what we need to do. And we did. When we moved back to New Hampshire, we did that for Dad's job, not for your skiing. Like, we moved away from Vail, Colorado, like one of the best mountains in the world, in order to go back to New Hampshire.
I mean, to cut in, I feel like we a lot of the moves that we made,
Yeah.
we moved to the East Coast. And then when we moved back to the West Coast, you know, in a lot of ways, these were some of the best things that could have happened in my career looking back.
Yeah.
But they were never done with the intention of my career. They were done for
Right.
Dad's work.
Exactly.
For Taylor's
For
career,
Taylor's skiing.
or
Yeah.
skiing, or
when we moved back to Vail, it
education.
was for Taylor because we felt like he needed a bigger mountain experience. So we wanted to go back to Vail. And you always just went along for the ride. But at the same time, Dad and I, you know, taught you the fundamentals. Dad had an amazing way of teaching everything. He actually taught me how to ski properly, how to finish my turns. I was always cutting off my turns, and actually that tends to be fast these days. So, you know,
Direct line.
It was fast back then, but it wasn't proper.
But he had a great understanding of fundamentals.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, how to ski, sort of a philosophy behind skiing.
Right,
I remember both you and Dad, but especially Dad was like, okay, you need to learn to stop before you can learn how to go.
Yeah.
I don't know that you specifically would have taught me that.
Yeah, I would have. And I actually
I just
think
feel like you like to go.
I liked to go, but I didn't like you guys to be in
That's
danger.
fair.
I
That's
wanted
fair.
you to be safe, for sure. And we'd see these kids flying down the mountain at Mach, you know, and they couldn't stop, and they'd run into the lift tower or something, break a leg. We'd hear about it constantly. So Dad and I were really adamant that you guys learn how to ski properly, but also learned how to stop.
Safety first.
Yeah, safety first. And so so I learned a lot from Dad. I learned a lot from Masters racing. He's the one who introduced me to that. I learned so much from the other people, and some of them had raced World Cup, some of them had raced college, a lot of them, but there was just a lot of knowledge. And people make fun of Master ski racing, but you know, those guys know what they're talking about. And I learned so much between
knowledge
Dad and
comes from passion, right? Like you have to have some passion. Maybe it doesn't come. It's like it's inspired by being passionate about something.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that.
Yeah.
And when I would come to some of your Masters races, it'd be like, these are the most passionate people about the sport, and they get the opportunity to get, you know, some competitiveness.
And it was fun and social. Yeah.
And yeah, I think these are the people who actually understand the most about the sport.
Yeah, they are very analytical. And at one point I was, you know, somehow Dad set up a training session with Tiger Shaw and Felix McGrath, Atlee's father.
Yeah.
Which is so ironic. That, you know, you're
know,
racing
here we
now and
are.
he's racing now, and they taught us how to clear gates, because it was right around that time when that technique was just coming online.
Yeah.
People were starting to clear gates, and we wanted to know how to do it.
For people who are listening, there's probably some lingo in this that you don't actually,
Maybe
you might not know what I
familiar
mean. Clearing gates in slalom,
It's like going through them.
You're going
instead
through the
of
gates
going
and going around them.
It's a different sport.
Yeah.
Like all
so
together.
it requires protective gear. You have blocking guards in your hands, and you have shin guards that you strap to your shins so you can ski through these poles and take a shorter distance line from start to finish. So when we say clear gates, it's an actual different, it was an evolution of the style of slalom ski racing at a period of time that.
Yeah, it was just like right after, Alberto Tomo was still racing. And so along the way, every step of the way, I learned something. And even, from the coaches in Vail, Rika Moore, Karen Gent, PJ Jenick, just so many people. I learned a lot taking the coaches course at Ski Club Vail, and then the U.S. ski team. Level, 100 and 200 certificate thing. Just learning and filing every single thing I learned. And then going to Burke and learning so much from Kirk and Adam. And so my way of teaching was unconventional because I basically just spit back out everything I had learned through the years in a way that made sense to me, that I thought would make sense to you and Taylor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I learned how to clear gates, and when I would think, okay, I've got to get my knee on the other side of the pole as hard as I can. So that was me doing it. And then when I was teaching you guys, we would do the broomstick in the kitchen thing where I'd take the broomstick and say, okay, the whole point here is for you to get your knee on the other side of this broomstick pole. And your hands need to be here. And this is how that has to go. I mean, there's just a lot of different ways to learn. You can do it in the kitchen with a broom. You can be creative.
Yeah. You can learn how to ski slalom, clear gates, visualizing it in a kitchen with a broomstick.
Yep.
And
it works.
It works partially because you had the experience. And when you say like you filed away these lessons and learnings, my understanding is that you learn so much based off feeling. Like you wouldn't have been able to sort of take these lessons in and then teach them to anyone else without having felt it in a way that was explainable.
Right.
I think that's a unique thing about you as a coach that I haven't. There are some people who are gifted in this kind of like movement patterns, let's say. But I've never come across somebody who's quite as gifted as you are in feeling of movement and then being able to describe what that's supposed to be to another person. I mean, Taylor and I talk about this. Like, you can teach somebody to ski World Cup in 5 minutes, we say. We were skiing at Mount Hood in Oregon, which is a place that a lot of skiers, a lot of racers will go for training during the summertime. It's this big snowfield at the top of a volcano. And most racers in the United States from anywhere from 5 to 10 years old have been to Mount Hood once or twice, and a lot of people for free skiing and whatnot. So we went to Mount Hood at some point, probably maybe I was 13, 14, something. And Taylor and I, we were there with you. We were doing drills, and this one guy, he was just at the very top of a trail that he had no business being on. He looked like he'd never skied before and falling, really unable to stand, period. And you were like watching this guy, and we're trying to practice our drills, and you're distracted. You're like, I gotta go over. Give me a second. You guys keep working on this stuff. I'll be right back. You went over to him. 5 minutes later, he was up on his feet, traversing across the trail. Honestly, he was kind of doing drills. He didn't know it, but you had him able to stand, able to ski, and to keep his feet parallel to each other. And you taught him how to be able to turn around and go the opposite direction and to control his speed. Just like a couple key points. And the rest of the day, every time we went up the chairlift, we saw him making turns, just making his way down that slope. We said, we swear, it's like how to ski World Cup in 5 minutes. It's just like being able to explain movement patterns to people is a gift, and you have it. But I still do think it's important for parents to understand. We didn't really, what do people need to know about supporting their kids in sport rather than pushing?
Yeah, that's important. I mean, we've all seen the parents who are pushing too hard or yelling at their kids on the soccer field, not cheering them on, but yelling at them, or yelling at them in the finish line because they didn't ski fast enough, or arguing with the coach because whatever. I mean, I had times when I would argue with a coach at Burke, and looking back on it, I wish that we'd had calmer conversations, and people don't always do things the way we want them to do things, but sometimes Sometimes it's necessary to do that if people are slacking off. I think that anybody in any job should be held accountable for doing their job the best they can. And so there are times when if you're in charge of my child and they're ski racing,
you get to hold that person accountable.
You get to hold them accountable, and you know, like, why
but
is this?
It was usually about things like the coach wasn't paying attention to the athletes.
Or they weren't really planning ahead. So instead of planning that the snowstorm is coming today, so let's take today off and then plan on training Friday, which is supposed to be an amazing day. Don't just take all of those days off, because that's really more convenient when your kids have races coming up, that kind of thing. I mean, I know parents who get frustrated, rightfully so, for sure.
Yeah.
And I also know parents who push too hard and they embarrass their kids out there, and they haven't quite figured out how to say things diplomatically. And sometimes it needs, I am a big proponent of parents helping out in any way they can. And I was lucky the whole time that, for instance, Kirk would let me come up on the hill and either write down times or video, or help set or pull or whatever. I mean,
like learn about what's required, kind of.
Yeah, like just be helpful and use the resources that you have that are free to make a program, a higher quality program.
Yeah.
I mean, coaches have a hard job. It's really hard, and there's a lot to do, a lot to keep track of. And so if you have parents who can ski and know, delegate, use them. But there are coaches who shouldn't be allowed. I mean, there are parents who push so hard that it's not okay. It makes it not fun for their kids. It's embarrassing.
Like, and, paying too much attention to the scoreboard at a time where just fundamental skill building is so important.
Right.
And learning how to love drills and, the process of getting from the start to the finish over what happens after you cross the finish line.
Right.
You talk about kind of encouraging me for a long period of time to not even look at the scoreboard.
I would tell you not to go to the scoreboard when you were young, 10, 11 years old, and we would be at a race, and those were such fun times, and we'd be with other parents and kids and friends, people who you were friends with. And I would know that you would have won the run and the race by many seconds. And I would tell you, do not go to that scoreboard.
Yeah.
You just let's go take another run, grab so-and-so, and let's go ski, whatever. But I really don't want you standing in front of that scoreboard, just ogling over your time or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't make anybody feel good. And, so... But yeah, I mean, there are ways for parents to do it and to fit in. I mean, including bringing baked goods to the hill, or volunteering to carry gates up or help set and pull if you're allowed to. And
I think
if you want to have
to be process oriented, and maybe that's cliche. Maybe it's something that, people don't really know what that means. But I just like to only show up when the results are being announced versus to try to assist in the process, however that might look.
Yeah, on race day, that's a day when it can be really, really helpful to not just help your kid, but help the coaches keep track of all the kids.
Yeah.
It can be really fun and
to show, for me, what's so important is to show your unconditional love.
Yes.
Despite outcome.
Yes.
Always. What was always
and
important.
Did you feel that? I'm just curious.
I felt this. I just felt, yes, I always felt unconditional love, but I felt that any, disappointment would come when if I was not if I was taking for granted the opportunity to try.
Mm-hmm.
The opportunity to do my best. It wasn't like we could just afford to throw money at ski racing.
Right.
We couldn't buy a championship mindset. We were not in that position.
Right.
You and Dad were, you both worked, and then you raised Taylor and me, and Dad worked,
Mm-hmm.
and you both raised us, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, we had to. Yeah,
You
we
know?
had to watch our budget. Mm-hmm.
It's not like, people might think, oh, you could just. We had opportunities. I had privilege in that way, but I just felt like learning work ethic was really important, and understanding that, opportunity doesn't just come around constantly. You really need to sort of seize that if you want it. So I felt like if there was ever any disappointment, it was only in periods of time where I was saying I wanted one thing and not acting in accordance with that based off opportunity I was given because you both were working to give that. And I don't think that happened that often, but it was just a lesson that stood in my mind. It's like when you feel that there's an opportunity towards something you really want and you've said you want it, don't say you want it unless you do.
Yeah.
And if you've said you want it, you just need to be honest in that, and like kind of.
Well, and that's the other thing that I think is important for parents to realize is that I have come across situations where the parent thinks that their child is really into racing or soccer or whatever. And the fact is that child is not.
Yeah.
But is afraid to say something. So the parents keep pushing and pushing, and they're, upset with this or that or the program or this, and then come to find out they have a kid who's sitting in the lodge when they're supposed to be out there, and wants to go to a movie instead of going to their training session. And
a lot of kids are really interested in the praise that you get from being successful sometimes. They're interested in praise. And I get it, because I definitely have, of course.
Everybody is,
But it's the interests lie in sort of, kind of glamorizing what can be if you say you want to be an Olympian, a champion of the sport. And I felt like you and Dad did a really good job of sort of, I feel like you sat me down once a year and you're like, are you sure it requires a sacrifice? Like, this is not necessarily going to be glamorous. And maybe you didn't know exactly what it was all going to entail, but you knew enough to say, like,
we just wanted to make sure you still wanted to do it.
Does this make you happy? You asked that every single year, at least, like, as we were kind of getting into the season. Does skiing make you happy?
Yeah.
It was just, these were things that just like instilled in me to my core that being happy and feeling good about yourself and feeling like you're executing something, you're really working towards something that you feel ambitious about. Like, those are key things.
Yep. And, it's funny because I have a friend who's this is kind of an unusual. I have a friend whose son fairly recently just didn't want to ski race anymore. He actually wanted to do something else that he had his eye on that he wanted to do. And it took him quite a while to speak up. And once he did, she was great. She said, okay, I don't want you to be a quitter, but the fact is that if this is not your passion and you don't want to do it, but there's something else you do want to do, because his grades in school were going down, he wasn't happy. And I said, well, maybe he's just not happy with skiing. Yeah. And sure enough, that was the case. And he did switch to the other sport, and it did make him happier. And, just because a kid doesn't end up loving or falling in love with ski racing doesn't mean they're a quitter. It's just like pivot. As a parent, your main concern is your kid, not the ski racing. So pivot. and be willing to do that.
Yeah.
And be supportive, whatever it is that they want to do. And like you said, make sure they know that you love them.
Yeah.
And you're there to support them.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a really good point. Quitting is such an interesting topic because it's like quitting based on what? Based on whose parameters? Because what would I need to achieve in order to stop doing this and someone didn't say I would quit?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, according to the title of this podcast, what's the point? What are you trying to get at?
Right.
What are you quitting at?
Right. And I told her, I said, I think it seems like, he got what he needed to get, or what he got what he got out of it. And it was a process. Yeah. He got the process, and there was
life lessons and discipline and so many
and there's
things.
Nothing lost,
Yeah.
It's just time to move on. So, yeah.
I'm curious to know how being a mom, when it comes before being a coach, I mean, that's probably sounds weird. It always comes before being a coach, but at the same time, when you are coaching a World Cup athlete who's training to, win an Olympic medal, the coach-athlete relationship is very important, right? So when does the motherhood take over? When does that actually supersede coaching decisions you would make? When have you, you know what I mean? Like, when has that kind of taken a hold and you said, actually, no, let's back off this because.
Yep. When that takes over, when I feel like your mental health is at risk, your safety is at risk, you're just not prepared. You're not trained. And to be honest, your race in Cortina when you crashed into the fence is an example of my gut was telling me that day that you should not be doing that race. But I don't know. What happened was, the coaches said, no, Mikaela's more than capable of doing this. And, I'm not really the speed coach. And so I hadn't seen you ski that much speed, but they've seen you ski a lot. And the only difference was that the surface had changed. And we were none of us were prepared for that. And I was already kind of thinking, I just don't feel like you haven't trained enough recently. But then on top of that, unbeknownst to all of us, and nobody could have called this, but the surface changed and got a lot faster. But if I feel like you're at risk of getting hurt, or you're overtired, you're overtrained, whatever, and even then, sometimes Reagan's the one to speak up sooner than I would, just like looking at her data and whatnot. And I really have to be like, let my mom's side step in and say, okay, that makes sense. And luckily, Karen and Yama look at the data too, and they're good with that. And they'll say, okay, well, these numbers show this. So, but that's when, if I feel like
well-being. And you have a deeper connection to my well-being than any other coach I've ever worked with, obviously.
Yeah.
But that makes sense. I mean, that would be an area that it's.
Or media, or like all these extra things that you have to do and then still perform. I have to speak up sometimes and, speak up to people and say it's too much. She can't. Hello, she's not doing right.
Overcommitted.
Yeah.
We're overcommitted.
Yeah.
And I can see it in my child that she's overcommitted. And I know she's 30, but let me tell you, not good for anybody.
Yeah.
Because you're the one who really has to face the brunt of it when I'm overtired and doing too much.
Yeah.
I really mostly don't take it out on anybody but you. Sorry.
No, that's
so
okay.
Sorry.
Or Reagan.
you and Reagan. I mean, Reagan's the closest thing that I have to a sister besides Christy, who's my sister-in-law. We've known her forever.
Yeah.
Reagan's my physical therapist. She was on the podcast earlier in an earlier episode, and we've known her. I've known her since I was 8 years old. At that time, I was best friends with her younger sister, so Reagan and I were not like, but that's why we reference Reagan as being somebody who knows me and my body very well. I've known her for whatever the math is, from 8 years old to 31. Yeah. Somebody else can do that. So we've talked a bit about your coaching, your understanding of movement, but I was wondering, so when you're sort of breaking down anything, can you explain the process that goes through your brain when you're breaking down a movement, or a ski turn, for instance, or a forehand swing? So it's, something, how you break down something to be able to process it in your own mind and then teach it to somebody else. Is that something, does that come naturally? How do you, you talk about relying on feeling.
Yeah, I really do. I rely on feeling. When I'm explaining it, I have certain feelings, like a certain area of my foot, underfoot, or my shin, or whatever. And I think that that's important. It came from, I think, the Inner Game of Tennis. Or no, it was one of the other sports books. But it might have been also in the Inner Game of Tennis, but talking about putting your brain someplace when you're nervous, on a sensation and on a feeling, to put it into that. And that really was something I kind of have always done. If I'm hitting a tennis ball, you want to feel the racket in the palm of your hand a certain way. Well, whatever. I mean, most sports do revolve around, I think, learning through feeling. For me, visual and experiential, or kinesthetic, they call it, which I also relate that to feeling, repetition and feeling certain, learning the muscle memory. And so that it kind of takes the intellectual side out of it. So that I think it's easier for your brain to conjure up a feeling in a competition when you're nervous than
5 different technical.
Yeah, than to try and put together 5 different technical pieces. And we've said this before. I've said this with your GS skiing, that when you start getting it really right, it's going to be fun. Yeah. You're going to like it. It's going to feel so good.
I said this the other day. So where we are right now, I probably should have led with this, but we're in Norway for World Cup finals. Yeah. This is where we're recording this podcast. And we were just in Åre, Sweden, where I did the best GS skiing I've done in 3 years in the race in Sweden. I had a big mistake and still ended up with a great result, but the result was not necessarily reflective of my skiing. But the day before we had training, I said on the chairlift, this is actually fun in a way that it has not been in recent memory.
Yeah.
Just a tidbit.
Continue. I remember you saying that, and I used to say that to you. You'll know when you've got it, because it is going to be fun. It's not going to feel like a grind, like a penance, or like you can't wait for the day to end.
But how do you know that?
Because
you've done it.
I'm a good skier.
Yeah.
No, I was a good skier.
That's not what I mean.
At one point.
I mean, how would you know? But I'm how do you know to say that to an because you've felt it?
Yeah, because I have felt it. I have felt a clean turn and the power that goes into it and how fun it is, and a clean turn to a clean turn and an upside down turn to an upside down turn. I have felt it, and it is so much fun. It is such a cool feeling.
Yeah.
And so, I might not have been able to do it at a World Cup level or with the same power, but I knew that it was the right thing when I was doing it.
Yeah.
And trying to get you there, was the issue. It was oh, come on, you're going to like this when you do it. Because it was frustrating, because you were like, okay, I got to do this with my arm. I got to get my shoulders down the hill, or I have to do this and I have to do this. And you were getting frustrated, and I just was like, you're going to know it when you do it, when you feel it. So there's the feeling. There's also the visual side of things. Visual, looking at a good visual, and we'd, oftentimes, like, I never go out there without watching people. I'm always watching people.
Yeah.
And when we're training, I'm always watching it.
What
It
are
could
other
be
people doing?
Yeah, it could be a junior ski racer who looks fast, and I'm like, what are they doing? Why is that so fast? Is this the next level of GS skiing someday? Like when Alice
you see
her
the powerful
technique.
structure of a turn. So I actually, for instance, Alice, another one is Marta Bassino. I remember going up the chairlift and kind of towards the beginning of Marta Bassino racing GS skiing, and she had this beautiful, effortless looking, powerful turn. And at the time, she was not faster than I was. In training, in races, she was a few seconds off. But I remember you saying, mark my words, that is a powerful GS turn, and that is a modern style of skiing.
Yeah.
And the fact that you were able to notice that, even though you didn't have the sort of the backup or the confirmation to look at what the timing sheet.
Right.
It's like how you're able to see the physics of it.
Mm-hmm. Going down the hill. She just let her skis go down the hill. So there's that, and also just looking, and then getting the times. It goes both ways. You get the times, and you have to say, okay, let's go back and look at this person, and what are they doing?
Yeah.
That created such a fast.
Yes, for sure.
But you can usually see it. We could see Alice was ripping fast. We could see that Marta was. I mean, it was noticeably faster. And in the meantime, you were still kind of hippie, and we needed to get rid of that. And like, I remember when we were trying to get rid of the A-frame and hippie.
Yeah. For people listening, those are just sort of technical terms for a sort of a fundamental style of skiing that is maybe a little bit outdated and can be pretty to watch, but not necessarily, there's sort of modern technique and form that creates a more powerful, just structurally fast, powerful, like a way to use the forces of gravity better with the skis.
Right.
And faster.
Right. So
that's what we've been working on
and
my whole career.
yeah. And that's the thing, is not becoming complacent as a coach, always looking to see.
Well, that's also a really good point, because, at some of these periods of time, I had won 30 World Cup races, 50 World Cup races. And I've heard this again and again, like a lot of people would say, you just need to be confident. You just need to be confident in what you've done and who you are and like how good you are, because sort of this is uncharted territory. Nobody's done this before. And you're over there like, I saw this girl skiing in the course next to us, and she had such a strong position. It reminded me of when Anna Fenninger was skiing her best GS skiing. And, let's get a video of her and look at that. And then our other coaches are like, that is a 14-year-old club kid. And you're like, I don't care. She's skiing she's skiing better than Mikaela is. Yeah. And they're like, but Mikaela would be faster. And you're like, I also don't care. Yeah. It's like about kind of what the potential is.
Right. Right. If you take what she's doing, or the drill, looking at what people are doing for drills, and why is that drill? Why are they doing that drill? Yeah. What are they? Yeah. What's the purpose of that drill, and what are they getting? So, never always being observant, and always don't be complacent. And so working on feeling, and also trying to think of ways, and this is why it's easier for me to work with you than anybody else. Or if I work with anybody else, I have to say, have you ever ice skated? Or have you ever played tennis? Have you ever gone windsurfing? Because a lot of what I do with you is based on my knowledge of you and what you have done for sports and what I have done for sports, and being able to compare a certain point in a ski turn with windsurfing, for instance, or, whatever. I mean, like going down a downhill course with lots and lots of bumps and comparing it to being in Kanaha, going Mach Schnell on the windsurfer with lots of chop.
Yeah.
And this is how you handle it. And I know you've done it.
Yeah.
So I know you can feel what
usually
that's
I
going
get
to feel
absolutely
like.
tomahawked.
Yeah, exactly. Without getting tomahawked. We don't want that.
I still have to wear a helmet when I'm windsurfing because Lord knows I'm going to hit that mast with full force with my brain.
We've both done that a lot. And that's why my body is in pieces. So, but, like a life-to-life comparison, trying to figure out different ways, not just like standing there talking and telling somebody, but trying to
like experiential learning and relating that. I was wondering if you have a thought on sort of what the biggest misconception is that people have about your role in my skiing and traveling with me.
Well, you tell me.
Okay.
What you think.
I feel the most frustration about when people say things like, quote, "You're following me around," or people have said this to you, friends of our family, friends of you, friends who you would at the very least think are going to be excited about this. What a cool thing that you are doing with your life and assisting me to do this sport, and like to try to understand it instead of saying things like, quote, "When are you going to let Mikaela go do this on her own?"
Yeah.
Because I strongly feel that if at any point over the last 15, 16 years, however long we've been doing it, since I was 15 years old, if at any point you had really, truly like left me to do this on my own, I would have stopped. I don't think, first of all, if you hadn't been willing to put your life on hold to start traveling with me from the beginning, I wouldn't have done it. I maybe would have made it through a year. And if you had really stopped at any, because you tried to stay home a little bit longer, and usually I got hurt. I got my first major injury in the very first World Cup race that you were not at. And these are just things I don't think people understand this critical role that you've played. But I also don't think they understand just on a daily basis what you actually do on the mountain. Like, you are out there injecting slopes with water, with fire hoses,
with
I'm not other coaches.
But I'm trying to sometimes, I
you
used
have
to try and help.
You have tried holding the hose. Like, maybe you're not holding the hose.
I have held
you
the
don't
hose.
need to like.
But
you
brought
don't
the
need
hose
to
up, help keep it in place.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're carrying 60-pound salt bags around to help the coach. You're helping set courses. You're videoing. We're then analyzing the video later. You're doing you're on the hill working when I am on the hill working. I guess that's specifically, like, people have not necessarily understood that. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions, is that you're here, like, doing my laundry, and you're actually on the hill working when I'm working, off the hill working when I'm working, doing the video sessions and the meetings, and often assisting me in my media, like always in the beginning. And then that's like a misconception. I think people feel like they don't quite understand that you're not on a European vacation.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, après-ski.
Après-ski.
Like 1 6-month-long après-ski. Yeah, that has been frustrating for me. But the reality is that, my role is,
ambiguous?
it's just, I've never been the head coach because I'm not qualified to be your head coach, nor did I ever want to be. I went back into nursing for a reason, because I wanted to be a nurse. And then this unfolded with me doing this instead. It's not that I'm not qualified to look at your skiing and help you with that. So I've had a really niche-y
You've worn a lot
like,
of hats.
Yeah, I've worn a lot of
Which is a great
hats.
word.
And I do think that knowing you're skiing and talking about it, you know, I hope that the coaches that we've always worked with didn't think I was obstructing your progress. I hope that they found it helpful. But that's, you know, and then just as far as knowing you and knowing, do we need more slalom or GS or, you know, stuff like that, just helping with the planning. But, you know, the coaches that we've had have done.
We've had great
bulk of the heavy lifting, especially Karen
teams.
and Yamo. It's like, it's crazy the effort that goes into, like, Karen planning all of the logistics with all of the flights and the lodging and just everything. I don't do any of that.
Yeah.
So I want, you know, I like to be clear and honest. My contribution to your skiing and this team is really specific and somewhat limited as far as being called a coach. But
interesting.
What?
You're downplaying yourself.
Okay. But I guess you would be the best person to
But this isn't a podcast of me with myself. No, but I appreciate that. I mean, it takes a village. You said this already. Mm-hmm. It does take a village. And we've had incredible teams that we've worked with, various coaches along the course of my career.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that have to factors that come into play to, you know, a World Cup level coach being comfortable with my mom coming to travel in Europe.
Yep.
They don't know what that's going to look like. We were really some of the first to do something like this. And a lot of athletes now, a lot of the most successful athletes now have a dedicated person around them.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about this with Paula Moulton on an earlier episode.
She has Ryan.
She has Ryan. Yeah. Federica has her brother.
Yeah.
You know, some have husbands, some have other significant
Laura
others.
has her mom and dad. Marcel
Parents,
had his dad.
Siblings.
Yep.
You know, someone who's looking out for you directly. But I feel that nobody has an Eileen Shiffrin. I'm the only one who has that. And if people really want to know what has set me apart in my career, it's the Eileen Shiffrin factor.
It's the quirky Eileen Shiffrin.
It's the girl who sings Dr. Dolittle from the top of the trees. You know, no, but it's true. I mean, do you ever stop to think about like what we've been doing? No, like, I know you don't really think about the whole number of World
I
Cup
tend
wins,
to
but
just do the doing.
like we walk into okay.
I don't think too.
I'm so process oriented. Like I talk about the process all the time, and then you just come in and blow me out. But I just like we walk into the hotel at World Cup finals where the men's and the women's circuit is often all together in the same location, and all of these various nations, all the teams are around, and it's, you know, it can be very busy. It certainly can be overwhelming, but we walk into the lobby and it's like Mikaela and Eileen walk in, and, you know, there's all these like young to middle-aged European men in their prime fitness coaches who are, you know, about to go out on the hill to inject the slope or set up fencing or something. And, you know, they're all like, "Hey, Eileen." And I'm like, I don't even know who you are. But you know my mom, and like, stay away from my mom. Also, like, when did you like build a coaching, like a respectful coaching relationship with these people that I see that they're like, you're like, "Oh, you know, when's course setting or whatever," and they're like, "Oh, we're going out at 8," you know, or whatever. And I'm just like, what is life sometimes? And they're looking at us. I don't know if you realize this, but they're looking at us like, who are you two? You two little...
Why does that work?
Why are you like the blind leading the blind? Like just two little... just these little American girls. Why does this work? Yeah. Exactly.
Well,
why
this
does
year
that
in particular,
work?
I think it's been so great because, well, actually the past few years, because we have mostly weighted heavily toward a female staff. It's you, me, Reagan, Karen, and then God love, of course, we have Yamo, which we could not do this without Yamo. But it's been pretty cool that we have so many women.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of a poor Yamo. I don't know how he does it with all of us, and Robbie and Lucas, of course.
He knows how to manage the female species.
Yeah, it's not testosterone driven. And, of course we have Robbie and Lucas, but as far as our, immediate team, most of the time, and then PK when he's here. But I think it's really cool. And
we have more females on our team than
most
of the teams
of
have.
the teams.
Yeah.
So I I love that. I think it's unusual, and I think it's
well, it adds a layer of sensitivity that I just don't think
edge.
People have really known is helpful and potentially even a necessity. Maybe sensitivity is not the right word, but it's this kind of like, it's a little bit different. It's learning that you don't need to just plow through problems and fatigue and you can think about this in a way that's a little bit different. Because like you talked about joining the men's track team when you were growing up and being like, oh, I can't actually just beat this down. I can't just do this.
Right.
I'm going to need to be a little bit creative with how we execute this program, learn this skill, run that race.
Yeah.
And I think that in this sport, females are forced to find some of those creative,
well, and it can be
paths.
hard because this is still a very male-centric, Eurocentric industry and sport. And for Karen, it's not that, I don't think it's that easy. I think that people don't necessarily show her the respect that she deserves. I mean, she works so hard as any male coach out there.
Yeah.
And, carrying Gates up a T-bar and going out there and watering. And she and Yamo provide, in my opinion, the highest quality training of any coaching staff on the World Cup.
Yeah. Full commitment.
And they figure it out. They figure out whether it means working with other teams or just doing it ourselves. They tell me what to do. I try and do what they tell me to do. We work really hard, and provide the best training that we can for you.
Yeah.
And I think that we have, an incredible team.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's a lot, Karen is she is the kindest, sweet. She's like Nana, she's the kindest, sweetest person. And you would never expect her to just do the stuff that she does out there with the, watering the hill. She is so strong.
Yeah.
She is so tough.
Yeah.
And that's why this team works with her as the head coach, as a female head coach, is because she is tough as nails and she knows when she has to be tough.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about Dad a little bit, but I've been going back and I don't mean to be abrupt there, but there's just so much more that I want to cover.
Yeah.
I want to talk about him, and I've gone back and forth about how to really do that, because for anybody who doesn't know, my dad, your husband, passed away unexpectedly and traumatically 6 years ago in February. And we were in Europe. My mom and I, we were in Europe, in Italy, training for the upcoming races, and got a call from my brother, who was the first to go to my dad at the hospital. And really the long and short of it is that they said, you need to come home to say goodbye because he's on life support and a ventilator and he will not
make it.
He will not wake up.
Right.
And we can talk about this in every different way, but I think we said this earlier, talking about grief in that experience is probably its own episode. So you've I would prefer to talk about him for all the things that he
brought to the
brought
table.
to, yeah, he brought it to the table.
Yeah, that we remember
what
him
he
for.
provided in our lives and
yeah.
the beauty of. And there's a story you talk about, Lord, don't let me die before I jibe. And how this fits into sort of what Dad helped you learn about skiing
and about learning
Yeah. I wonder if you can kind of tell that
about the importance of methodical teaching and learning, and if there is a recipe for doing something better, more efficiently in a certain way, by all means, let's do it that way.
Yeah.
But I learned that when Dad and his best friend and Doug's significant other and I all went to Maui, and we were windsurfing, and Sid and I were trying to learn how to water start. And actually, the same thing happened with jibing. With both skills, we spent 2 days at least 2 days. With jibing, I think we spent a week trying to learn how to do it, and falling in the water and floundering and choking on salt water over and over again. And our hands were raw. We just couldn't. And then finally, with both things, they said, okay, are you ready to learn how to do this now?
Are you ready to listen?
And are you ready to listen? Because we kept saying, no, we'll be fine. We're going to do this. We're going to get it. We had no idea what we were doing. We didn't understand how to use the wind properly.
Jibe is not something one simply does.
No. And so, and we that's where we came up with the saying, Lord, don't let me die before I jibe. Because we just felt like we were never, ever going to get it. But so with both things, they brought us up onto the shore. They dug a hole. They fixed the board so it was like a land simulator. They taught us exactly the theory behind wind and how to use the wind properly to help lift the sail, and so that we could use basically 2 fingers to get the mast up and get the board up, get ourselves out of the water. And the same thing with jibing. I mean, it took them 10 minutes to teach us each thing. And these were in different years when we, progressed, but very methodical and very, like their instruction was so helpful. And then we went out, and the minute we went out, we were able to water start, and we never stopped from that point on. And the same thing with jibing. I mean, I'm not great at it, but it's just like how they were. They just sat there and laughed and had a beer and watched us get pummeled.
Watch you flail and flounder.
Yeah. And keep saying, no, we've got this. And they were like, okay, all right. And so they'd go out and sail for a couple hours and come back, and we'd still be floundering. But the point being that I really learned the importance of having a streamlined approach to doing things.
Not necessarily having to reinvent the wheel.
Everything doesn't have to be trial and error all the time. You don't have to learn by failure. Yes, that's fine. Failure, experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. But
especially at the beginning of learning something. When there's a point where you've reached a level where what you're learning in failure can't really be taught.
Yeah.
But there's also a point in the beginning of learning something. I felt like you and Dad were the best at teaching Taylor and me how to just like cut to the chase a little bit faster. Just like, here's a couple key things in order to hit a tennis ball in the way that's going to be fun. Just to get it. There's like a level of just beating your head against the wall when you're learning anything. And then you get to just the critical minimum, and then it's fun. And now you can learn by failing.
Yeah.
Or you can take the next lesson. But most people probably quit a lot of things because they never get to the point where it's fun yet.
I know. And there's just so many learning tools out there, like when Taylor was trying to learn how to overcome his growth spurt and trying to learn how to play soccer better and, using the DVDs that taught ball handling skills and all of that. I mean, there are ways to do it where it can be more fun and it's not so frustrating. So
absolutely. The Olympics as a topic.
Yeah.
I feel that the Olympics have been a catalyst for a ton of growth in my life.
And emotion.
And a lot of emotion, too. I was just wondering what you think about how the Olympics coincide with growth and learning. And like what, basically, our experience in Beijing and then how that led to Cortina and how that led to growth in life.
Okay, so Sochi, the Olympics just sort of happened in the middle of the season. We were sort of like, okay, I guess we're going to the Olympics now, and you won a gold medal, and we left. We were very naive.
You're a good slalom
Let's
skier,
go in.
and you have the flu, so
yeah, you were sick. You did the best you could. Oddly enough, you came in 5th in the GS, which that was kind of cool. But anyway, so Sochi was Sochi. South Korea was interesting because it was, again, an odd place for us to feel like, to have the Olympics, but they had such a great hill, but it was freezing cold and it was windy and there were things that came up. And of all things, you were skiing really strong slalom, but things didn't go as planned and you didn't even get on the podium for slalom. But you did win the GS, which we never thought you would be doing. And you did that because you worked your butt off up until literally the last second right before the GS. And you went in with a technique that worked because you kept, you just kept working away at it. And then you won a silver, so you won the gold and then you won the silver in the combined, which was fantastic. You crushed the slalom in that one. But so we came away with that one. The weird thing was that nobody really seemed to acknowledge the fact that you won a gold medal in GS and a silver as well. Anybody seemed to be able to focus on was the fact that you didn't win the slalom, and they turned it what was a great experience, like Eileen Gu had. They tried to turn it into a bad thing, and we let that happen. We kind of let it happen to us instead of just turning it around and saying sorry. But I thought that was a very successful Olympics. Then Beijing happened. It was a couple of years after Dad had passed away. Neither one of us were over it yet. COVID, it was in the middle of COVID, which was in China, which was one of the most difficult countries in the world to deal with it. So all of those things I do think impacted, and we bit off more than we could chew. And that's something that we learned there, is that you were trying to do 5 events there, or 6.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what we were thinking of with that one.
It was an experience.
But maybe, we were greedy. And somebody was up there was trying to teach us a lesson in that regard. Yeah. Don't get too big for your britches. But anyway, you came away and it was devastating. I mean, you were skiing great and you could have, and by all rights should have won several medals. And instead we came away with nothing and with a bad feeling. And at that point, the cool thing that came out of that was that because I felt like it was very emotional and it was hard on you emotionally. So we got in touch with Abby, your psychologist, your clinical psychologist. And, for several reasons. One of the reasons was because I'd felt like you hadn't really had the opportunity. We didn't ever deal with the grief from Dad passing away. We didn't get help. We couldn't really find the proper help. Nobody seemed to be able to help us. And so we got in touch with Abby. You started working with Abby, and I met with her a couple times, but for the most part, you started working with her, and it was, I think that was a really beneficial thing.
Yeah.
Like if you had to go through that in order to start working with Abby, because Abby has opened up a world of communication to you and healing and ways to avoid ever getting back to that point in the first place through communication. And so this Olympics was it was a different experience. There was pressure, but Abby's way, we started working with Abby last year at this time during finals, and a couple of, our whole team met
talking
her.
about the Olympics.
Talking about the Olympics and what it was like, what it would be like. And then we decided that, we met with her a couple times over the summer as a team. And I don't really think that the rest of your staff understood the impact that Beijing had on you. I did. I witnessed it. I never, ever wanted you to go through that again. It was really hard.
Well, it's something you also don't even really want to talk about because there were so many factors. It was so intertwined with the feeling of Dad not.
He couldn't help
Dad's
us.
accident and and his passing and being so far away from family and having just had COVID. Like you mentioned all of these things, but it was so tangled into so much of life that was really like misplaced, just out of place.
Yeah.
And there's reasons for it. And Cortina would have been a different experience even if we walked away with no medals because
of what we
pieces in life. Like I'm more of a whole human than I was at that time.
Yep.
And I think that you have healed a lot in your own way as well. And together we've grown immensely.
Yep.
Even in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
But anyway, yes, the team, some of the conversations we were having this summer.
I mean, Abby called it the vortex, and it was like a vortex. It was hard for us to convey to our team because you and I were the only ones who had been through an Olympics together before.
Yeah.
So it was hard to convey how stressful that it would, and the fear and the PTSD you had after Beijing, after, getting beat up for your performance. And like, it was really hard for us to make people understand that.
Yeah.
But Abby gave us all tools for how to relate to each other and relate to you.
Yeah.
And we had to keep revisiting it. We all learned so much as a team about how to come together and become a really cohesive force and supportive of you, and how to use our communication. She literally had to tell us what to say and what not to say. This is what you want to be saying. This is what you don't want to be saying. You can't fix her. Don't try.
Yeah.
But
don't try to fix the fear of criticism. We talked a lot about fear of criticism, and what big response that people. Like when you have an athlete or anybody who comes to you and says, like, I'm going to open up my heart. I need to be vulnerable here. I'm really afraid of what's going to happen if this goes wrong. What are people going to say?
Right.
And it's a really, it truly is an instinct to want to fix that feeling for the person. To
want to say, oh, don't worry about it.
To say, don't worry about it.
That's not going to happen.
Or to say, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
That was a big thing that people would tell me. Don't worry about Beijing. That was a one-off. That's never going to happen to you again. And I'm like, why not? Why wouldn't it happen again?
It might.
Like, it's not that it's a curse. It's that this is a sport with crazy variables and fine margins. And you can fall. Like, that's not out of the question.
Right.
You can mess up.
Yeah.
That's not a Beijing curse. That's the reality of the sport.
Right.
And I felt like sometimes that was not being heard. But not, with the broader, public, with people who only see the stats of our victories and don't necessarily see the human side of it. And so letting in the team on that human side of things and being vulnerable enough to say, I'm feeling very concerned about the criticism that will come if I don't perform, if I don't win a medal. And despite that, I need you all to remind me of what we're here to do. The task we have is making those incredible turns between the start and the finish. You just need to keep reminding me.
Yeah.
But it was even there. It was, the instinct of our team, our inner circle. It was their instinct to try to fix my perception of, a fear of criticism. To say like, but those aren't the people that matter to you. Right? And I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't change that. That doesn't change that it's scary.
Your fear of getting, beat up again. And it was a stressful time. It was stressful for everyone. I watched other teams. I watched everyone out there, the athletes. And our team, we came up against some gamesmanship that we, was very unsettling when it happened. And we kind of unraveled a little bit on the warm-up hill, like just
we
maybe.
Certainly were challenged.
We were challenged, and maybe, I know I was stressed and not speaking in a way that was, we had been really, really cohesive up until that time, and that we were sort of coming unraveled a little bit and getting, not sure who was angry at whom. Was somebody angry at somebody? And then Abby stepped in right away to clear the air.
Yeah.
She stepped in and said, remember, essentially, we're treating each other with respect, and we communicate.
Transparency builds trust.
Exactly. Transparency builds trust. We need to talk to each other. It was such a great, it was really a kind of a surreal experience because we all went back and regrouped.
This is the day before the solemn race that everyone would think is the most perfect day. They've spent 4 years prepping for this. They're perfect. Everything's perfect. And it was a perfect day. And we won the race. We got a gold medal. We won by the largest winning margin of recent Olympic history, whatever. All of these things. And you would think it was ideal, right? But we were significantly challenged literally the day before.
Yeah. And I think that was intentional in a way. We were pretty sure that it was intentional by, one of the other teams. And it worked. They were trying to get
destabilized.
They were trying to destabilize the other teams and us especially. And it worked until it didn't work. Until we were able, thank God, we did have it. We thought about not bringing Abby because we were like, we're not going to need Abby.
There won't be time.
She can talk to us over the phone, and she can keep us together over the phone. Oh my God. She got to see everything that was going on the hill, and with our...
And all the training and the pressure and the way you see things and handle things in this crazy, we really called it the vortex. The outside world doesn't exist in a weird sort of a sense, but it really, really does, given the nature of this Olympics and the timing of it in a global landscape. The outside world really, really existed. But you're still expected to perform. So you still need to prioritize. And this vortex, it was intense.
Yeah, it was intense, but the gift we came away with was not just the gold medal. It was the fact that when you got in the start gate, you said, I felt
every one of you.
I felt every one of you, your support.
Right there with me, as if you were lifting me. I felt lighter in the start gate because I could feel that every single one of you were just there with me.
We were there with you, and we were there with each other. It was a connection. We had a great connection. And when it started coming unraveling and Abby could see it, she helped us regroup and get back together. And I mean, it was such a cool experience for us too. Not just because you won, but because we felt like it was, I don't know how to put it. It was just
a lot of things. There was a lot of it's not that a lot of stars needed to align. It's that we all individually and together have done an enormous amount of work over a long period of time in skiing, physically, mentally, as a team, like team cohesiveness.
Yeah.
In order to bring about a moment that comes once in every 4 years, or honestly, maybe once in a lifetime.
Yep.
Because I've never executed a performance in an Olympic race, no matter where it was, in the way that I did in that slalom.
I felt like if you take our team, you know how each individuals can be in the zone?
Mm-hmm.
It was like our team was in the zone.
And in like within that same bubble.
Yeah.
Like in the moment, it didn't even require explanation in a way. I don't know. It was a really like special.
It was a powerful experience.
It was a very powerful experience. And it was sort of teaching the importance of the effort into this, you know, into being dynamic and honest and open with your communication
and with each other
in life.
Yeah.
How much that honesty impacts.
Yep.
So, yeah, I totally agree. But, you know, there was another side of this, our preparation for this Olympics that was enormously different. Is that, you know, when we were gearing up for this racing season, going to the Southern Hemisphere for our big training, you know, our big training blocks before the race season started back in August, September, where you would normally be packing up your gear and coming with me, you were going into chemoradiation for cancer. And you didn't travel to any of those camps in the Southern Hemisphere, and you didn't travel to Europe for the beginning of the season. It was my first time racing in Solden when you weren't there. Even when your mom passed away, when Nana passed away, 2 days before the Solden race, you still came. I believe you still showed up for that race.
I got back for it.
I think you got back for that race. And if you didn't, that would be the only other time you weren't there. But this is the first time that I've and you were not able to get back to Europe until Christmas.
Yep.
And at this time, we were talking a lot about your recovery and the importance of putting your own body and your own health first, and that might mean that you would not make it to Europe this season. And so this would be the first season that I might look at racing on the World Cup entirely without you in my career. And it would be the Olympic season. And going into these, going into this season, I guess I just figured, okay, like freaking level up. Because you don't get to do this without her and not do the very best you've ever done on any of it, and like walk away with that like this is not an excuse. You get to implement the lessons you've learned, that I've learned. This is me talking to myself. I get to implement lessons I've learned from you over the course of my career, and I get to execute on those things now. But I need to level up. Which was its own interesting experience, but it was a catalyst for a lot of these conversations that we were having as a team on the phone with Abby, because I felt it was going to be so important for everybody to know what page I was on and where I was at mentally all season long, because you were not going to be there to communicate that and to explain it to the coaches when I wouldn't want to be talking about fears I have going into the Olympics with anybody, let alone with my coaching staff. You don't want to show that vulnerability, and instead it was like, we have to dive into this because you know, these pieces need to be in place, and you need to take care of yourself now. And you've been taking care of me for my whole life, and you need to really, really take care of yourself. I guess, in the beginning of the season, we didn't really want to talk about your cancer. We don't want to really talk about your treatments, but a lot of people noticed around the World Cup circuit, a lot of people noticed that you weren't there. And thankfully, people weren't asking me too much directly, but they were sort of tiptoeing around our team and asking our coaches, asking Karen and Yamo and Reagan and PK and the U.S. team, just asking anybody, where's Eileen? She's never not been here. How's this affecting Mikaela? And, at the time we were like, oh, she bought a house in the Berkshires. She's like moving furniture. She's getting the house set up, like trying to, make an excuse for why you weren't there, which was like, is this believable? And people seemed to sort of buy it, but it was like, not so much hiding, but just that it's not really something you want to be talking about or living or reliving. You don't want to be living it, period. And you definitely don't want to be rehashing it with everyone.
Right.
So we didn't want to discuss it too much. But there's also a really very real and tangible impact you can have on others when you do put in the effort to spreading awareness. So I think it's worth discussing now to, one, emphasize that importance of taking care of yourself, the importance of taking care of yourself, getting your checks and not putting these things off, and to help people understand how they can support somebody who is going through treatments for cancer. So let's talk a little bit about the importance of awareness.
Well, I can't emphasize enough how important it is for people to get their mammograms, get their colonoscopies, do their health checks appropriately. Ironically, Aunt Lauren discovered her cancer when she was having a check for something else. Her back was hurting her. So she went to have a x-ray or something, and they discovered her back was okay, but they saw a mass. And then she was diagnosed with cancer, and that was a big deal for her. And I was there to try and help her get through that.
Yeah.
Ironically, and then the following week, I went back to Massachusetts to help PJ get through his knee surgery. And then I ended up going home and having my routine colonoscopy and discovered from that, lo and behold, that I had a tumor. So, you want to put things off. I almost did because I was like, I'm so busy.
It's an Olympic season.
Yeah, I don't have time. I don't have the energy. I want to just I need to get furniture for the house, But I did it. Yeah. And that was the last thing I expected. So then I was like, okay, I guess we're going to pivot here a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You dove into your treatments, and this is people have different ways of handling everything in life. And they have different ways of handling a cancer diagnosis, the treatment. Just, there's different ways of handling it. Everybody has their own way. And I guess I was wondering if you have any advice for people listening, who want to support someone in their life who's been diagnosed with any kind of cancer, who's undergoing treatment. How can they be supportive in an effective way? Like supportive for that person who's actually going through the thing versus, supportive in maybe more of a forceful way.
Well, now that I'm thinking about this, for me, I wanted privacy. Yeah. I wanted peace and quiet. I wanted the opportunity to emotionally and physically process what was going on. I had to get myself to my appointments and have my treatments and figure out what I could eat and keep down.
Yeah.
People wanted to bring food and kept contacting me like, what can we do to help? And really, other than maybe being available to drive me to an appointment here and there, I didn't need any help, and I didn't want to have to be on, so I didn't want people coming over.
Yeah.
And they wanted to cook food for me, but fact was, I couldn't figure out what I could eat until 5 minutes before I was eating it. And then, so it didn't make sense for me to have people bringing a lot of food.
Yeah.
I approached it in a way that I just wanted to be quiet and introspective. And I fairly quickly got to the point where I didn't have the energy to do anything anyway. I just was at home, kind of lying on the couch trying to get my meds down and get to myself to my appointments every day.
Yeah.
And so for me, the best thing was hearing from people that I'm here if you need anything. And I have such good friends who are like sisters to me and family, and back in Edwards and Vale, that I knew that they were there, and they were just kept reminding me, we're thinking of you. We hope everything is going okay, and please let us know if there's anything that we could do. So it was
having
hard
like a
for
list of people who
I
you
trust. And then as far as some people to talk to, the only people I wanted to talk to was John, who had cancer and is going through that, and Lauren, who can, like, my world of socializing was sort of like in terms of talking about it. I didn't really want to talk about it to anybody.
Yeah.
The world was divided into cancer patients and non-cancer patients, because either you can relate to this or you can't.
Yep.
And then we'll talk about other things, but not the cancer.
Yeah.
Other people might need other things. Like if I had had kids or other people around who I was responsible for, I would have loved to have had a food train.
Yeah.
Or,
Absolutely.
I mean, there are just, everybody handles it differently.
Yeah.
And for sure, offering up help to people who, have more going
offer
on.
help and sort of, truly listen to
what that person
needs
Yeah.
and try to trust, give them the space and just the honest compassion that you can trust that they will reach out.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you what's needed.
Yeah.
But it's hard to know sometimes.
It is hard to know, and you just, all you can do is offer.
And sometimes people see quietness, that there's when you think about mental health, sometimes people think that, quiet means isolation.
Right.
And
that's not okay, and that's not healthy.
It's not okay for you to be quiet. You need to talk about this. But, for you really had the experience that you were talking to the people that made you feel heard and understood, and that helped.
Yeah. It helped. And, given this profession, we're around people all the time. I rarely, if ever, I never have my private time and my quiet time. And I learned how important that is for me.
Yeah.
It's so, so important. I'm more than capable of entertaining myself. I was never, ever bored.
Yeah.
And it was very healing.
Yeah, you haven't had a lot of time in life to actually take care of yourself, but you're a caretaker for others. And this, this kind of leads me into the final thought on this podcast is, what's the point of your journey so far? What do you think? What's the thing that's been inspiring you in your life, the motivating factor? What's sort of driven you? Why were you willing to give up your career twice to come travel with me on the World Cup?
Well, it was because I love you and Taylor, and I've always wanted, the best for you. Parents love their kids and they want to be supportive. And this was you needed it.
Yeah.
You have needed the support, or we thought you did. And maybe we're realizing that it's okay. You've gotten, I think that it might have been a kind of a godsend this summer. You had the opportunity to do it on your own. You know that you can do it on your own and be successful.
To be clear, I wasn't doing it on my own. I was still talking to you every day. I was we were talking every day. I was sending video, and Karen and Yamo, with this team and the people around, it was possible. And because I'm 31 years old now, and I've had enough experience, but
yeah, you have the best team you could possibly
definitely
have.
Wouldn't say I did anything on my own.
Well, you did, and you're your own best coach now. I think you've gotten to that point where I don't feel like I have to point out this or that or the other thing about your skiing. You have your points, and and I feel like we did this journey, and it was great, and that was the point, was to get you to this point in life, and to give Taylor his space that he needed because of his age. He needed to have space. And now that he's having a baby, I'll have some, time to help Taylor and Christy and move on with my next chapter. So
I feel like you're truly, just the most pure form of a caretaker. You've been nursing, and you've stood up to bullies your entire life, and you've taught people. You've been a teacher and a coach and a wonderful friend. You've been, goes without saying, you've been a wonderful mother, but you've been really just such a pure caretaker. And I was wondering what you get from that, from taking care of others.
I don't like seeing people hurting in any way, shape, or form. I can't, it's really hard for me to see that and not step in. And I don't always step in the right way. Maybe I'm like a bull in a china shop, but I don't like seeing people hurting emotionally or physically. So,
if you can help, you want to
help. If I can help, I always want to help. Yeah. It's just how I am. It really upsets me. It gets to me.
Yeah. It makes you feel good to see others feeling good.
Yeah. To fix things. I like to fix things.
Yeah, you're a fixer. Sometimes you have to
Stop
let go of the fixing. It's tough. I get it. But yeah, I've always really admired that about you, and I definitely appreciate how much you have always wanted to take care and guide and just like participate in life with love and with the people around you, just to lead with love and caring.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you. Well, gosh, this is we cut out so much of this episode. We might have to do a second episode. I thank you so much for taking this time. I know it's kind of stressful because you guys, we're still pretty fresh into this podcast, and it's challenging to nail down a date and to do the right prep and to do it all, because we still have the final World Cup races of season coming up in 2 days. We're racing in the Super G and Solomon GS, and there's a lot of work still to do. So thank you for making the time for this and reflecting with me.
My pleasure.
I love you.
It's fun.
You're the best.
Thank you.
You're the best, Punchy. I love you, Mama.
Love you too.